students are in the education system for 7 years. That's a huge portion of your life. Doing things that aren't necessarily going to actually give you value in the real professional world. Some people say it's a massive waste of time because when you go into profession, you need to be ready for construction drawings and documentation and understanding clients' needs, whereas all you've done at university is do fictional drawings of utopia. Students are not prepared for the professional world. And now we're in a stage where AI has made things even more turbulent.
Hey, so before we jump in, I want to say a massive thank you because Space by Stansons has hit the top 25 design shows in the UK. And that's obviously we're so grateful to our guests. They are absolutely amazing. And all of you, the audience tuning in, sharing, following, all your engagement on socials, absolutely, we're blown away. So grateful. So we've done something special. We have launched show notes, and you can go on to stansons.co.uk/space and sign up for show notes, where you get a cool little email in your inbox every week, just tipping you off on the person that we've spoken to and key highlights of what they've said, some key headline things, just to make quick, simple scroll read on your commute, on the train. So that's stansons.co.uk/space. And we want to bring the community on and signing up for our show notes. So we'll see you there. And now let's get into the conversation. Hey, welcome to another episode of Space by Stansons. Today, I'm chatting to Hamza, a digital artist at Gensler, and it is the first time I've been speaking to someone about the release of their book, which is very cool. It's around image generation, artificial intelligence, and creativity in design. Hamza has been with Space before on a panel discussion more, so not a podcast episode. And honestly, so easy to talk to, knowledge just oozes out of him. So this is going to be very, very easy. But I want to just get into the book, why the book, if it's right for you to read, what you would want to hear from him, all that type of thing. So let's jump in, shall we? Hello, Hamza. Welcome to Space.
Thank you very much.
It's great to have you on board.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
And have you seen this out and about in the real world a lot?
Yeah, I'll be honest, I've been a bit of a hermit, in the last several months, just because I've had a new baby, my baby girl's 9 months. So,
oh, wow.
With the first book, I was able to go and do talks and go see people at universities and have students come up to me and talk to me about it. With this one, I haven't been out and about as much.
So what's the marketing been like?
If I'm being honest, I've been pretty bad with the marketing, but I think I'm just reaching a point in my perhaps life where I value quality more than quantity. I've also just become a little bit disillusioned by social media, a bit tired of it. Opposite, in my last book, I made a whole social media campaign, and so yeah, I'm taking my time with this book, and whatever comes up, if it's a quality conversation with you, for example, I'm going to be there.
What is it about social media that I'm hearing this so much?
Yeah,
what is it? It's something. People are exhausted of it. What is it?
Are you feeling that with other people?
Well, A, with me,
yeah,
and B, with other people, a lot with other. Just see people I was showing someone the other day, proper our age group, on no social channels, not one.
The frustration with social media has been around for a long time. Perhaps our generation is growing up a little bit and realizing that there are more important things. Maybe that's one of the factors. I think for me specifically, I have a social media presence that is specifically focused on creativity and my creative expression.
Mm-hmm.
And so it can become very draining to continually try and keep that momentum.
Mm-hmm.
So I think for anyone who's in content creation or even just trying to keep up with social media for their own personal brand, it just gets draining. Mm-hmm. And, I have 2 kids now. Life starts to reprioritize, let's say.
I get it. What platform was the best for you when you launched your first book?
Well, Instagram's always been my favorite.
It's been your best.
The favorite thing to use, just because I used it in the very early days, and I had started. I would say my journey, career-wise, passion-wise, actually started on Instagram. Hence, my first book was about social media in some way. It's called Drawing Attention: Architecture in the Age of Social Media. And so that book was essentially talking about how social media is a is a very valuable tool, right? Now, I came from the position, I think I still do even in this book, of looking at the zeitgeist of the time or the technologies of the time. I love technology.
Surely not.
Right. But looking at it with the lens of optimism in a sense and thinking, look, the negative things are obvious and I'm not here to negate them. With mental health with social media, sustainability issues with some of the technology emerging today, those things are obvious to me and they shouldn't be ignored. However, I think what's more refreshing is to look at how you can utilize these things in a positive way, or what the real utility is of these things. So with me, social media was always like, all right, I'm not going to make it about me and what I ate and how amazing my holidays are. This is going to be about my creative design diary. And so I'd say 10 years ago or whatever, when I started using Instagram, I just started putting my architecture drawings out there. I actually put all the passion and energy that I should have been putting in university at the time into showing the world my ideas rather than my professors and tutors. And it actually worked out quite often.
It's true. It has got a place, but it just feels like it's a bit ironic we're talking about a book about AI, but it does feel a bit with AI, the speed of content creation has sped up so much and the volume is just exponential. And now, I mean, it always was about like stopping the scroll and breaking through the noise and all of that. Like it's in marketing strategies and social strategies, I totally got it. But like now that is just like 10 times, 100 times more because of the accessibility for more people to create stuff on social media, which, to be honest, can be just trash.
It's so true. And we have a term for that in the AI world called slop, AI slop. And it was a real crisis and still is in some ways. I think people have become a lot more attuned to seeing the slop. I mean, the average person might look on social media and see something and immediately recognize that it's AI and they don't have to be an AI expert. So I think we're becoming more accustomed to understanding the nuances around AI. However, there's a part in the book, there's a chapter in the book that talks about, actually it's in the opening chapter, that talks about how the breeding ground for a technology like Midjourney, DALL-E, and all those early stable diffusion models and something image generation. Now it's Nano Banana. Everyone's crazy over that, right? But the breeding ground for that was a world that was obsessed with images and content. Hence the book's called Image Generation, because it's a play on words that, yes, it's image generation technology that unlocked all of this. And we can talk about that a bit more if you want, but we're also the generation of people obsessed with images. So we are the image generation. And so there's a healthy critique in the book as well as talking about the optimistic sides of things.
That's really interesting. I was going to ask you where the name came from. That's a really clever name.
I do the play on words. I did it in my last book as well, drawing attention. The idea was because it explored how drawings can be your source for good attention.
From your drawings,
right? But it's also the idea of like drawing attention to yourself. You shouldn't look at that as necessarily a bad thing or a good thing, but if you can use it in a way that will progress a positive intent, then there's value to that.
Amazing. And so where did your inspiration, why did you write this book?
I think it just happened. I often feel life is a bit of sort of a domino effect now. Like things are just happening because of 50 things that happened before it. Maybe that's just everyone and life in general. But the first book, I could go back to my childhood, but I won't bore you with that. But I'd say the first book was essentially trying to capture how a disruptive technology or zeitgeist of the time, in that sense, architects on social media for some reason getting more followers than household brands like Gucci. Like why is an architectural drawing person on Instagram having 600,000 followers? So, to me that was odd, right? And I weirdly found myself in a cohort, let's say, of people who were getting a lot of attention for things that were just drawings. And so that started to make me question, like, why is that happening? And is there a value to this? And so for me, identifying these disruptive zeitgeists of the time is something I'm always thinking about. In some ways, I'm a bit of a futurist. or digital transformation really intrigues me. So that first book arguably is a product of exploring digital transformation, right? Because it's looking at the use of social media, the value of it for architects. And so in this same way, when the AI boom happened, I mean, when I first saw Midjourney and I was one of the early beta users, like one of like 6,000 or whatever, and now it's like over like millions and millions. I remember typing some words in and then seeing this thing go from abstract noise and suddenly making an image of what I wrote. Now today that sounds like, so what? But just remember, 3 years ago, that was sorcery. That was sorcery because that paradigm was new. You know, you type something into Google, like, you know, a pink elephant riding a horse on a cloud, falling through a black hole in the jungle. It's such an abstract, weird thing to say. You put that into Google, Google will be like, are you okay? Right? You put that into these image generation models, you will get it. So for dreamers and people who are visually exploring, you know, a million miles an hour, like me, the common theme for me is I've been drawing for as long as I can remember. It was just mind blowing. And I became obsessed with it. I became fearful of it. I became panicked because of it. But that only pushed me to get more and more deeply involved with understanding even the mechanics of like, how is this actually working from a technology standpoint? That pushed me to start to look at the open source world and the models that were being released, some of the more advanced technology. I paid a lot of money to upgrade my computers at home. My wife's like, what are you doing? This is just madness. And, you know, but then I'm showing her like, look, like, you know, we can make images of anything. And, you know, she was then scared and excited. And I just went down this route of experimentation and I suppose in some ways became, if you could call me an expert. By the way, when I say expert, I'm not an AI expert. Traditionally speaking, haven't studied it, no machine learning. I sort of became a specialist in that specific area because of the early engagement and experimentation.
And just so much experimentation and
yeah.
getting into it. And you do get that experience, don't you?
Yeah.
And yeah, no, totally.
If I ever do a talk, I say to try and make things very simple. My passion is experimental drawing methods. And that extends back all the way to when I was a kid. Like I would do a drawing that took 3 or 4 days and I would have no issue ripping it up and throwing it in the bin. Because for me, it was never about, oh, look at this amazing piece. To me, it was about that cathartic process of doing something where an idea becomes some sort of visual representation. To me, the process, and I think that's probably the reason I've ended up in technology, is because creative process now is in the realm of technology. So to answer your question, that zeitgeist that blew up of the AI boom and experimentation became then the impetus to say, what does this all mean for architects? What does this all mean for designers? And the result of all that experimentation was the only way I'm not going to be fearful of this is if I somehow maintain agency and authorship. And that's what that book focuses on, of how to maintain agency and authorship.
Yeah, you've spoken about that before, and I really like that approach. You're using it, it's not using you.
Well said.
If you know what I mean. So I think that's a really that's when AI becomes really powerful, right? It starts to amplify your creativity and amplify the amount of work you're doing. Or
100%. And by the way, that in of itself is the focus for me right now, even in my work at Gensler, which is the world's largest architecture firm. You know, even there, the focus is, so how do we maintain control? How do we maintain agency? How are we still allowed to say we are the creative authors behind this work when you type something into an AI platform?
Yeah, I had a question. I have thought about that before, and I know I've spoken to you about that before, but as AI evolves, whose image is that? Is it yours or is it AI's? And something that triggered was there a image generated of Donald Duck or something at some point through AI, and then Disney were like, "Hey, that's got copyright on it, so how can you do that?" I don't know. I've read it very loosely and lightly and quickly, but
Yeah.
it starts to sort of get into copyright as well.
Oh, there are a number of cases, and the American Supreme Court has sort of really set the precedent for a lot of these cases. And to be honest, it's still in progress.
Not resolution.
No, the legal precedent is still ongoing. And countries differ in their opinion around it. The UK is a lot more, let's say, conservative or strict around copyright, but also training and also protection, safety, online safety, and the safety of these models. The US is a little bit more open to it, of course. Places like Japan, they outright said, if you're training AI models on copyrighted materials, it's okay, which it was, it's a very bold position to take.
It does feel like that, doesn't it? Like you've got China, and then it's just like no limits, just go for it.
Yeah, there's
a lot of England, and we're like,
there's a lot of differences, and to be honest, it's good to somewhat be in the middle ground, I think, because we need to understand. Hindsight is going to really show us whether we made the right decisions or not, right? And also these things are going to evolve in a way that we don't know what the right answer is, to be frank. And it even gets into the philosophical debate realm. The idea that if you made a piece of art, is it fair that I've typed something in and it's used 20% of your art to make that, right? You end up going into philosophical discussions about, well, actually, forget AI. People take people's ideas anyway when they draw things. What's the difference that I've used my hand versus a mouse? There are some really interesting. That's why it's unresolved, right? And as you mentioned, there are a number of cases where Disney and famous actors and actresses are suing or starting legal cases around people using their likeness and using their characters. So that's definitely something that is an issue, but we're in a weird place right now that these models are still being used at an unprecedented rate, right? The amount of people now who know what nano banana is, to me is mind-blowing, because before that, no one knew what stable diffusion was or control nets. It was very niche.
It's become much more mainstream, and especially as people like Apple and Google start integrating it with like phones and home pods, your laptop and your everyday. And then that's when people are like, it's just exploding, isn't it? It's not like someone like you that's super technical and you've got your amazing computer at home and you spent all this money and you've dug into the technicalities of how it's working and everything. It's now just very like kind of just on your watch almost
everywhere.
Do you know what I mean? And so you're like, that's when things like Nano Banana or even ChatGPT images and that sort of thing are becoming very accessible to the everyday, like untechnical user, right? So who's this book for? Is it because it's quite deep? I looked at it, I was like, wow, Hamza, this is definitely written by you. It's for clever people.
Well, I've tried to make it very accessible, specifically to students, right? If I'm honest, I even said in the book, in the acknowledgements that, I do a lot without knowing it. Sometimes I do a lot of the projects I do are for students. And I think it's primarily because I sympathize and empathize with students a lot, having been one very recently. And arguably, we're always students in some way. I just feel like in architecture school, the pedagogical journey is so difficult. So difficult. Students are in the education system for 7 years. Yes, that's a huge portion of your life. Doing things that aren't necessarily going to actually give you value in the real professional world. And that's me being nice. It could take a much more extreme take on that. Some people say it's a massive waste of time, because when you go into profession, you need to be ready for construction drawings and documentation and understanding clients' needs, whereas all you've done at university is do fictional drawings of utopia. That's not my take exactly, but that is the correct sentiment, right? Which is students are not prepared for the professional world. And now we're in a stage where AI has made things even more turbulent.
Quick breather. Are you enjoying the chit chat? We are really passionate about highlighting the voice of designers and workplace managers. You can help more people and more designers like you by subscribing to the show. So we'll carry on doing our bit and you do yours, and we'll make this show seriously, seriously great. And obviously, don't forget to subscribe to show notes on stansons.co.uk/space. Let's keep chatting.
AI has made massive innovations when it comes to diffusion technology, which is what image generation is, LLMs, which is what ChatGPT is, and Gemini and Llama, all these things. But it hasn't triggered enough innovation, at least for the industry to see and the world to see, in data-rich outcomes, in the idea that, yes, we can generate an image, great, but can you generate an actual built detail? Can you generate an actual built space and room? No, you can't. And the reason is because there's a lot of data engineering, data science that needs to go on in order for you to create those systems. That's one thing. The other thing is we still haven't seen enough inference power, which is basically the chips that NVIDIA have made that really have been part of this boom. They actually need to get more stronger, at least in the commercial availability and the price of those chips. For everyone to have machines and models that can do very complex 3D data-rich generative tasks. So we're not there yet. And we've seen a boom, but only in a very small area of actually what AI is capable of.
Yeah, and it's kind of the start of the process as well.
It's the start.
Yeah.
I think the reason you've seen a lot of urgency, and at least I felt a lot of urgency, is because I think if we don't get our foot in now and start to think proactively about even just these technologies that are impacting us, then we're not going to be ready for what comes next.
Yeah. I was actually listening to Elon Musk this morning at the World Economic Forum, and he was speaking about, if you heard him, he speaks about by the end of this year, AI and robotics will be more intelligent than any human.
Yeah.
And by the end of 3 years, AI and robotic will be more intelligent than the whole of humanity combined. Whether you believe him or not, but I think he's definitely got his head screwed on in that area. And you start to think like, wow, that's going to really change how people, whether they like it or not.
100%. I mean, I'll show you something I'd written in this book, which people can hold me accountable to, was actually a chart and a graph of what I predict to be happening in the next 10 years or so. And we can put this on screen if people want.
Yeah, go for it.
During the actual video, what you'll see is that from 2012, I sort of give a history of what has happened in terms of the AI impact, and looking at this from the lens of creative AI and image generation, but also slightly broader to that. You can obviously see in 2012 there was a deep learning model that really triggered a lot of this during the competition, AlexNet, for example, and that unlocked the world of image generation. They made this model, and then if we fast forward, obviously we saw ChatGPT, Midjourney, Stable Diffusion in 2022, and then in 2024, which was at the time I'd published the book, I'd obviously talked about the release of Flux models, which interestingly, they were the people who actually made Stable Diffusion. They left and started their own thing. And then I knew that was going to be a huge shift in terms of the way things are going to go. Sora came out, VO2, so all these video models started to emerge. So then I started to talk about 2026, 27, 28, 29, 30, and then 30 plus. And you can see in 27, I talk about advanced robotics emerge. So maybe I'm a year difference to Elon Musk, but the point being there, like, this is also so relevant to how that's going to impact the design world.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about the construction industry at large, not just construction, but the industrial industry, manufacturing, everything, the world is going to completely transform when robotics can take on that level of automation.
It's actually on a much different level. I was talking to somebody about robotics, and I said every house will have a robot shortly, just like you have Wi-Fi. And they're like, "Don't be stupid." I was like, well, "Of course it will, but what would it do?" So I started reeling off what it would do. your ironing, go to the shops for you, like look after your kids for you, look after your pets for you, look after the elderly. And they're like, can I have it now? And I'm like, well, there you go. It didn't take long, did it? It didn't take long for people to suddenly want one.
I'll give you another anecdote. My wife, anti-AI, anti-GPT, which is funny, right? Because I'm...
Yes, opposites attract.
Yeah. But by the way, side note, I love that about her because it gives me balance.
Yeah.
But now she uses GPT like crazy. Which you might be saying. That's the thing. As soon as like you said with your friend, like as soon as you see the value it can actually bring you in your day-to-day life, it doesn't make sense to not have it. Now, I will say this: we do need to be informed. We need to educate ourselves on what's behind these models, right? Because we have private companies that are essentially taking all of that data. And you need to be informed. I think data proficiency is one of the things I talk about in general in the book and elsewhere. That data proficiency is the next big thing for everyone to learn. Right? We need to know what it means to give our data, to be in charge of our data. And I think you're going to see a lot more about data ownership emerging this year. What it means to actually be in charge of your own data. Right now, you don't have access to your data. And when I say your data, you might think like, what do you mean? But I'm talking about, the steps that you took to get to the office today. That's your data that has been recorded on your apps. It's yours from a moral ethics standpoint, but it's not yours from an ownership standpoint.
Yeah.
So I really love to explore the idea of like, what does it mean for us to actually be in charge of all of our data? And then we become the vendors to the big companies who actually want our data. To me, that's an interesting concept.
It is an interesting concept because historically, in terms of digital anyway, all of our actions online have been tracked and that sort of thing, which provides those companies data to sell to advertising. But that's been how they've managed, from a business model perspective, how they managed. We've had so many free services like Google, which is absolutely brilliant, but it's available to everybody because it's free. Right. But as soon as we're in control of that data, suddenly would Google be free anymore? Because what's the benefit? Because we've got to sell the data to Google to sell the data. It changes the whole business model of so many apps and services and online everything.
Yeah, but that's a very fair point. Do I expect us to all be, in charge of our data? And I mean, not really. Unless there's an incredible startup that emerges and finds a way to do it with some blockchain technology is unable to be, interrupted, maybe. But I say that more as a provocation to trying to get a point across about how important it is for us to at least be informed that if we do get a robot in the house, forget the robot, even just you using GPT, the amount of informality that people now have with GPT and talking to them about their life issues and everything and anything, you don't know what and how that data is going to be leveraged and monetized. And that's worth knowing. And also, one of the sentiments I really want to get across as well, and this is also why there's a reason that this book talks about models and technologies that are now outdated. And I knew that would happen. And publishers were talking to me about that a long time. And I said, look, I know these things are going to get outdated, but what I'm trying to teach in this book is not how to use control nets. I'm trying to teach you why control nets are important in the first place. And I give you another analogy. The people, the graduates who are coming in, who we've identified as talent and working with us, I've seen that the ones who are the most desirable to employ are the ones who have an understanding of legacy AI platforms from the start. Because they have a mature approach to then figuring out what to do with the next technology. They have a more well-informed idea about what it means to use AI technology. And it might sound like a very, very minor nuance, but it's huge. And the reason I think it's so important is because our roles are now going to be moving towards everyone becomes a director. everyone is kind of a director now. You've got your creative agency in your pocket. You've got your writing employees in your pocket. So your job is to direct. And you can only direct if you truly understand, I think, the mechanisms behind who you're directing.
Yeah, it goes back to what we were saying about education. It's not, and often say this, and it's not about what you learn, it's about learning how to learn. And that sounds like a really simple statement, but learning how to learn is so key, because you could write this book, you could write 100 books, and then I'm sure they'd all be fantastic, Hamza. But however, they will be outdated, and likewise everything in the schooling system. The only thing we can pass on to our children is learning how to keep experimenting, how to keep learning. I'll be gone and I can't, so there's nothing point knowing what I know, because the world will be different, but you need to know how to navigate, how to explore. Do you know what I mean?
Nail on the head.
And it's about learning how to learn. It's such a simple statement, but I'm so strong on it in terms of like, I've got a 3/4-year-old boy.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And you just think like, there's no point me teaching him anything.
Yeah.
I just need to teach him how to find out.
Love that.
Do you know what I mean?
Love that.
Because it's not,
Yeah.
I'm old
Yeah.
and I'm quickly getting older.
Yeah. You know,
It's interesting.
it's such a great point. It's exactly what I think I'm trying to capture in this book. And also, I have to give credit. Of course, we haven't mentioned. I should have mentioned earlier that actually the book is made up of 10 contributors as well.
I saw that in the
Yeah.
content.
So there are 10 other contributors who have asked to write chapters in this book. And the way the book is set up is to go through actual practical workflows that capture a moment in time of a specific approach to using AI, not trying to highlight the tool specifically, but showing you this tool was used with this tool and that tool. And many of these are open source tools. It gives students that legacy understanding, by the way, not just students, professionals. There are also interwoven chapters there by contributors who are talking about their own theoretical stance on AI. One of the chapters talks about, the idea of, bias. All of the models have a bias. When you're dealing with a model that is biased, it's actually putting forward ideas that are just not suitable. And this is also a scary thing to think about generally, if you think about how there is a greater and greater, let's say, narrowing of where these AI models lie and, who's using what models. It just means that, for example, if the design industry becomes completely reliant on Nano Banana, then is Google actually responsible for the design or are we? And I think these kind of questions are important to put forward now, right? Because we're still at the building stage of this. So totally resonate with your point.
That's interesting. And whilst we do talk about learning how to learn and giving them the tools here, which is great, and it is my underlying most important thing, people always want to know what AI techniques or tools you are using. So I've got to ask you that, because people want to see that. So what are you using, or what do you see has the most potential to changing your everyday design process?
Okay, so it's a hard one for me to answer, because a few things. I wouldn't count myself as like a generic user of AI. Primary reason I would use AI is when I'm trying to experiment with my artwork. A lot of that I actually don't even put on Instagram because I'm just in my own space and just experimenting. Another way I use AI is I talk to it a hell of a lot. When I'm driving, I'll put it on voice mode and I will just reel off things that are stuck in my head. I have a lot of things in my head that I need to structure, and so I have chats of massive venting sessions that I have with AI. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not trying to advocate or push away the use of any models, but these are my personal opinions. When I used ChatGPT recently, I'm really struggling to have like a in-depth conversation. For example, I did about Claude from Anthropic. It's a much more favorable LLM model for me. Personally speaking, being able to get to that level of depth, especially the Opus model, is very advanced. So I love to talk to Claude, organize my thoughts, and then when I'm doing my architectural experiments, I'll use an array of tools, going from old legacy tools like Stable Diffusion and Control Nets, to Nano Banana sometimes, to put that final finish on things. But really, I'd say right now, I'm actually trying to keep AI technology away from my art, because I've started to get a bit scared about my reliance on AI for art. It became an experimentation, and then I think I started to feel, oh my God, am I starting to now rely on this to express my art? So now I'm moving back to just sketching in a notebook.
When you do the sketches, do you video yourself doing the whole?
Again, just going back into artist mode, I struggle with turning the camera on. It almost takes something away from when I'm drawing and when I'm painting. It feels as if I'm doing it for the wrong reason, and I'm contending with this. Right? I know the value. I wrote a book about the value of social media, so at the same time, I'm trying to figure out how can I do it in a way that is genuine, but also, I can express it to other people. I'm still trying. That's why a lot on my phone is filled up with videos of that. They just I haven't done anything with.
I've literally had this conversation quite deep with someone quite recently, and it's actually not. It's all about what your objective is and what your vision is,
Right?
Because for example, I'm doing this podcast. It's nothing about me. It truly, honestly, is not. I don't give a flying hoot about me. It's just about sharing people's voices, helping the design community, helping people be more aware of the trends and that sort of thing. And so that's what it's all about. It's all about everybody else. So the whole purpose is it's social and it's out there because it has to be to support and help people. But then other people do fashion or cooking or art or anything like that. And it's nothing about anyone else. It's their own little recluse in the busy, busy world. And it's about them finding their happiness and their expression and their outlet. And so if you're doing it to serve others, it's got to be online. If you're doing it to serve you, it doesn't have to be online.
Yeah. And I think I'm at the stage in my life where I need to serve myself with my creativity and not others.
Mm-hmm. And there's no judgment.
It's just, I think that's, people go through that process. And I feel like again, quite personal, but I feel like I kind of lost my true creative authenticity in the AI experiments. And in a way, I wasn't an artist during that time. I quite literally entered the world of technology. So my artist soul is yearning to feel like an artist again. And that's just one thing I battle with every day.
So why do you think you lost your artistry? Because it was digital rather than physical?
I've realized this very, very strongly. Creativity can be a business focused endeavor, or it can be a personal focused endeavor.
Totally.
And you kind of just talked about that in some way as well.
Yeah.
Right. And right now I work in a business. I work in an amazing architecture firm, global firm, and creativity, at the end of the day, is to progress our business. And I'm also in a global position where, more and more of my work is becoming less on being the creative star, or whatever, right? A bit more about enabling other people. And now building teams and trying to scale this technology and give everyone else the power. And then when I get home, I fight with myself to get a pen out and a pencil. And so I just think I'm at that point in my life where I'm focused on let's say creativity and its utility in the world of business at the moment. And hopefully one day I'll be able to get back to the creativity for the self.
Yeah, you've kind of got both things going on, haven't you? Because you've got Gensler where you are enabling the other people, you are passing on that knowledge, and you are enriching people and enabling people essentially. And then when you get home, you've kind of got that kind of, you don't need to be doing it anymore.
I don't need to, but yeah, exactly. But I'm going to New Zealand for 3 weeks soon, and I look forward for taking a new sketchbook and just going at it.
Oh, I can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
Man. I can't wait.
Well, you might not,
but I probably won't. I probably won't. But I was just gonna, because it's yours. And
No, but I might.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I always contend with, do I put this out or do I not?
if it's for you, man,
So it might just be for me.
it doesn't need to, does it? And you need to be peaceful about that as well, actually. Just that's cool. That's your thing. Right, we're running out of time. But before we go, where can we buy this book?
Anywhere, really, I think. It's in bookstores. Amazon is probably the quickest way to get it.
Yeah.
But the Reba bookstore is also a great online resource.
Cool. I got this off Amazon, so it's cool. And so there we go. We'll put the link in the bio or whatever you call it, so you can grab this book. And I got one other question for you. What do you listen to when you are drawing? What music do you have going on?
Easy answer.
Oh, wicked.
Classical music.
Classical music.
Yeah. And I'm loving Elgar at the moment. The cello concerto, Elgar, is a lot of emotion. I have to be in the right mindset first to listen to classical music in the first place, because it's emotional. It takes you to a different place. And then as soon as I put the classical music on, then I think you can actually be with the art rather than you're looking at the marks you make and thinking, oh, did I do that the right way? When I listen to classical, I think the music kind of lets me just instinctively do.
Yeah, no, I love it. Yeah. Do you listen to a different style of music when you're concentrating at work, but in focus?
I can't listen to music at work. I think some people are like that, right?
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah. I need all my brain. And if some of my, if I'm on Photoshop, let's say, well, I used to be in Photoshop a lot more before, but if I'm on Photoshop, then yeah, I can put some music on because I don't need to think about stuff. It's all instinctive.
Yeah. And is that classical?
Yeah. That won't be classical. That will maybe be whatever, something else.
Nice. Thank you.
Something without words. Maybe classical.
So instrumentals of sorts. Yeah. No, thank you, Hamza. Appreciate your time. Appreciate you talking about this book and all things AI image generation.
I appreciate you for inviting me. And I think there's probably a lot more we could talk about. I really enjoyed that chat.
Yeah, no, there is a lot. Thank you, everyone. As I say, put the link in the comments so you can go and get the book. And please do the whole like and follow thing so the algorithm can get busy and help us get more great guests like Hamza onto this show. Thank you.
Thank you.